Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this meeting of the Executive on the 4th of April. My name is Councillor Paul Follows and I'm Leader of the Council and Chairman of the Executive. Can I remind everyone, though I'm sure this particular room doesn't need reminding, this is more for the benefit of the webcast, that we are now in the pre-election period and that members must avoid saying anything which is overtly political or that could be perceived as seeking to influence electors or is controversial. I'm sure most of that means that at least 3 of you can't speak at all, so this should be quite a quick meeting. Okay, on that note, apologies for absence, Fiona.
Thank you. You've received apologies from councillors Peter Clark and Nick Palmer.
Thank you. Item 2, minutes of the meeting on the 7th of March and the 21st of March 2023 as published on the website. Members of the Executive, can I have your approval to agree them? Thank you. Item 3, declarations, Fiona.
None received.
And any declarations from you right now? None. Okay, in which case questions from the public?
No questions from the public.
And questions from members. I'm going to invite Councillor Gale to ask her question.
First of all, thank you, Leader. I know I was a bit late coming in with this, and I've already submitted some notes to all members to save you listening to me waffle on. But the actual question is as follows. Will the Waverley Borough Council Executive please consider adopting a formal policy to require all SANGs provided in Waverley to be fully funded and maintained for a minimum period of 80 years to avoid undue costs and expense falling on householders in new developments through higher levels of service charges? My understanding and concern is that these increased costs would also have to fall on occupiers and/or providers of all forms of affordable housing. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Gale. As you are aware, I have some opinions on the validity and efficacy of SANG in many respects. As much as I am happy to commit to the forward plan, if only you're happy to add that to the minutes, for the Executive to consider such a policy, I think it will be immensely sensible to have. We just need to look at the detail. Obviously, in a pre-election period, none of us here know that we're going to be back or not. So I'm sure it is something that whoever the next Executive is will take up with gusto. Liz, did you want to add anything at that point?
No, just to say, obviously, it would be something the how SANGs are funded, and reviewing that would be something that I'm sure that a new executive would want to look at, and to ensure, as you say, that the expense doesn't fall onto the residents of the estate in perpetuity. So yes, absolutely. Thank you, Councillor Gale, for raising it.
Yes, thank you, Councillor. Anything you want to add, Maxine? But it's such an exciting meeting for you, Maxine. Understood. Thank you very much, Maxine, for your question, and I hope some of us will be here to take it up. Right, item 6, leader and portfolio holders updates. I don't believe I have anything particularly serious to add to updates from me. I will go around everybody though, just in case. Councillor MacLeod is first on my list.
Thank you, Leader. I'll just make a couple of very brief remarks. We're continuing to work on sorting out the Brightwells House issue. In terms of parking, the officers advised me we're doing particularly well on recovering in parking revenue. And it's we had budgeted for 200,000 less than in previous years, but we're recovering so much that a lot of that might be recovered. And enforcement, as always, there's a lot of very good work going on, but I don't think it's appropriate to go into it in any detail. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you, Councillor MacLeod. Councillor Penny Marriott.
Thank you, Leader. I just, as this is going to be my last executive, I just thought I'd like to say thank you very much to everybody, to all the fellow members of my executive, because it's been a pleasure and a privilege to work with you, and because it's good to be in a good reforming, well, and active executive, and I enjoyed every minute of it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Councillor Marriott, and I think I will just intercede at that point. There may be a number of people here not standing, and potentially none of us back in some combination. And I would just like to say thank you to everybody here for everything you have done over the past 4 years. I know some of you have been with us for quite as long as 4 years, but some of it might have felt a little longer than that, depending on the role you've been occupying. So, and I will also say thank you to a few of the members of the executive also who are not here now, certainly Councillors Clark and Palmer, but also to Councillor John Neal, Councillor Michaela Martin, Councillor David Beeman, who have been members. And of course, my ward colleague who's standing down, Anne-Marie Rosman, who had housing for the best part of 3 years. And I could not have done any of this job without her, certainly at the beginning. Right, I'm going to carry on through the rest of the exec, starting with Councillor Merriweather.
Thank you, Leader. Actually, I've not got anything that I'd like to spend time on this evening talking about. Thank you.
I'm not sure this is a good omen or a bad one, but the gavel broke in the last meeting. Anyway, lucky we don't need it after today. Right, so Councillor Paul Rivers.
Thank you, Leader. May I give a little puff to the Landlord Services Advisory Board? Thank you. Colleagues, last week we held what is probably within this administration anyway, the last public meeting of the LSAB. I think that this board has been particularly effective in merging the historic divide between councillors and our tenants panel, and I hope it has a long and expanded future in the future. So what have they done? Well, housing revenue account budget setting, they were involved in that, review of flexible tenancies and the subsequent change to the tenancy agreement policy and strategy, senior living consultations, all exciting stuff, but very, very necessary. Quarterly performance report comments on repairs, rent collections, voids and complaints. I have learned a considerable amount from them. And their challenge to contractors and the monitoring of the housing asset management strategy. One thing to mention, of course, the HRA hardship fund policy. I remember the work to deliver rent credits to 93 tenants of £200 each in recognition of the fact that their homes have poor energy performance, something we need to deal with. And one point, of course, coming up, the social housing bill has commenced its final stages in the House of Commons. It's intended to bring forward a stronger and more proactive regulatory regime to drive up standards and hold landlords to account for the service they provide to their tenants, and the LSAB will be key to demonstrating how tenants are truly involved in decision making. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you very much, Councillor Rivers. It's been my pleasure and honour to attend most of the Landlord Services Board meetings, and I think it's a committee that's gone from strength to strength, and it's great to see the tenants panel engage in the way that they have and be there as full members effectively in a way that they just weren't under the old housing ONS. So it's my hope that we'll be back to continue that particularly good work, in my opinion. My apologies, Councillor Mirrlees. I apparently can't read in alphabetical order. So Councillor Mirrlees.
Thank you, Leader. Just quickly, from April, the Surrey County Council have taken back the mowing of the housing and highways areas. And we will, however, be cutting many meadow areas a once-a-year cut to collect and promote biodiversity. With regard to the museum, the council received the offer letter for £734,335 from the Arts Council, and there are several conditions to be met to provide the Arts Council security over the project asset. And these include the council's formal approval of the standard terms and conditions for the MEND Fund, and a formal legal commitment to undertake a deed of covenant between Waverley Borough Council and the Arts Council with a restriction on the title for 15 years, the duration of the grant conditions. So that's where we are at the moment. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Councillor Mirrlees. And then, of course, I've got Councillor Townsend.
Thank you, Leader. I'd just like to take this opportunity. Obviously, as you said, none of us know whether we will be back or not, but I just would like to thank the officers that I've been working with, especially in my portfolios of economic development and also planning. Planning's been really busy, as we know, and has had quite a lot of challenges during my tenure here. But we've also, in the following years, there are huge things that we will need to or whoever comes here will need to grapple with, things like the biodiversity net and again, things like the nature recovery strategies, and you know, this is something obviously as an administration that we have been very concerned about, you know, protecting our biodiversity and our countryside. So whilst I'd like to thank them, we still, you know, this council still faces a very busy time ahead with planning in the future. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you, Councillor Townsend. And finally, Councillor Williams.
Thank you. I'd just like to add my good wishes to Penny and, you know, for her future life outside Waverley Borough Council. And I also just would like to add my own appreciation of the wonderful bunch of colleagues that I've been working with on Waverley Borough Council Executive and the fantastic officers that we've had over the last few years. Personally, I don't want to become an involuntary retiree from Waverley just yet, neither do I wish that of any of my colleagues. But I'd like to just you know, use this occasion to say thank you, and lots more work to be done after May, whoever's doing the work.
Thank you. And the one group of people I just want to thank also, and I'm going to do some thank yous at the end of the session in regards to the exec, but the one group I'll just do in updates is the electoral services team, because nominations closed today. I know, partly because I've been one of the people doing it, haranguing them about every little thing under the sun for the last week or two, and they've been doing an absolutely amazing job to get everything done. I'm sure there'll be some interesting news from the nominations released tomorrow, but all of the hard work of the team to get it to that point has been pretty staggering. So thank you to them. Right, I'm now going to move on to the body of the agenda, starting with the recommendations from the Overview and Scrutiny Committees, starting with the Resources Committee. I think there's only one here that we have to look at. Item 32320-312, Assets Investment Advisory Activity Update. I'm suggesting that we reject that recommendation and refer the matter to the Services ONS Committee at a later date to cover the item more appropriately. Any objections on that one? No, I think, Fiona, that was the only one on the services. Yes, on the resources, even on the services, we've got several. S140323.7.1, the Clean Air Strategy Action Plan, proposing we agree that as both issues are referred to in the strategy document, and the LPP1 ones, are they also additional for this time? They're prior agreed. Yeah, so that's the only one for that. So any objections on the air quality strategy? No. Okay, in which case we will move on to item 8, which is the Civica document management update. Bear with me one moment. So this is to introduce, well, to approve and place the order for the upgrade of the Civica electronic document management system to the next version. This will benefit effectively all of the lines of business that use that, which is Revs and Bens, housing, planning and environmental health. Any speakers on this item? No, in which case the recommendation is that it's recommended that the executive authorise the IT team to place the order for the upgrade of the Civica W2 electronic document management system to W3 in line with the capital programme proposal. All those in favour, please show. Thank you very much, everyone. Moving then on to item 9, the Microsoft Enterprise Agreement renewal. So this is just to place the order to renew the new Microsoft Enterprise Agreement for Waverley. This is essentially the software that underpins most of the basic apps that we have. So Office, Outlook, Exchange, the servers, Windows, etc. This is the large enterprise agreement that is a 1-year extension, I believe. So there's 2 recommendations, but first, do I have any speakers on this item? No, in which case, 2 recommendations. The first is that we delegate authority to the Joint Strategic Director of Transformation and Governance to approve the purchasing of the annual Microsoft Enterprise Agreement on the best commercial terms available each year, provided that the sum is within the relevant budget as approved. And 2, authorise the IT team to renew the Microsoft Enterprise Agreement for 23-24 for Waverley with either Bytes or Phoenix Software, depending on the best project price or terms. The provision for the licence is within the existing IT budget. Can I have approval for those recommendations? Thank you very much, everyone. We're now at the exclusion of press and public, which we don't need to do. As the next meeting that we technically have is not a meeting of the executive in its standard format, we go to the Shottermill Trust. I am just going to use this opportunity to thank all of the officers who've supported the executive, both in our internal briefings and in the management of these formal sessions for the last 4 years. As somebody who had been a backbencher for about 18 months before I became deputy leader of the council in 2019, this was a huge shock and a jump. And there's absolutely no way I could have done it without some of the people that are in this room and some of the people who have previously been in this room. And I want to thank all of you for everything you've done. We wouldn't have been able to do it without you. And at that point, I'm going to close the meeting, the last time of the proper executive before we move to the Shottermill Trust with my dodgy gavel. I hope to be around for the new one. Meeting closed. Okay. Welcome, everybody. The executive now sits to exercise its powers as delegated by council, acting as the trustee of the Shottermill Recreation Ground Trust. May I have apologies for absence, Fiona?
Apologies from Councillor Clark and Councillor Palmer.
Thank you very much. Item 2, declarations. Anyone? Fiona, were there any received prior to the meeting?
No declarations.
And any from the floor? Nope, seeing none. In which case, then we have item 3, which is the Hazelmere Leisure Centre, the Herons lease. I apologise for any Hazelmere residents that have noted the typo. We do definitely know how to spell Hazelmere, so don't worry. Councillor Mirrlees, I believe you're introducing this item.
Thank you, Leader. The Hazelmere Leisure Centre, which is owned by the Shottermill Trust, operated by the council as trustee, makes an important contribution to Waverley's leisure strategy. The council has recently re-procured its leisure management contract, and this is due to go live on the 1st of July 2023 with a new leisure operator, SLM, Everyone Active. That the executive is recommended to use the powers delegated by the council as trustee of the Shottermill Trust to approve the lease of the Hazelmere Leisure Centre to the new leisure operator, SLM, for a period of up to 20 years, maximum possible under the contract, allowing for extensions.
Thank you, Councillor Mirrlees. Any speakers on this item? No, in which case I bring it to the recommendation that the exec use the powers delegated by council as the trustee of the Shottermill Trust to approve the lease of the Hazelmere Leisure Centre to the new leisure operator, SLM, Everyone Active, for a period of up to 20 years, maximum possible under the contract, allowing for extensions. And for all those in favour, please show. Thank you very much indeed. And for, I hope not the last time, I can now close the meeting.